Welcome to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. I'm Ronaldo McKenzie. This episode will feature a new series, the first part of a new series entitled Yesterday's News Today. This is episode one of the new series, a series that is a new edition or the newest edition in the in the Neoliberal Corporation's The Neoliberal Journal, and it is available in the journals entitled Yesterday's News Today, issue number one. Now, the Neoliberal Round Yesterday's News Today will provide a concise overview of the most significant news stories that shape the weekend and have ongoing implications. From geopolitical developments to scientific breakthroughs, global challenges, and studies, stay informed with our roundup of the top headlines. And today's news will feature top news stories of the weekend from July 21 to July 24, 2023, with some updates.
Нет войне! Нет войне! Нет войне! Нет войне!
Now, last weekend saw several major news stories break across the United States, the Caribbean, and around the world. Now, here are some of the top stories that made headlines on the Neoliberal Corporation's news journals and feeds. 1. The UPS strike looms as workers advocate for fair pay in upcoming contract negotiations. The UPS workforce is facing a critical moment as thousands of part time employees push for higher pay ahead of resumed contract negotiations between the Teamsters Union and the delivery giant. With the threat of a potential strike looming if no deal is reached by July 31st, 2023, America could witness its biggest strike in 60 years. Here's what you need to know about the ongoing negotiations and the potential impact of a strike on UPS operations and the broader economy. The UPS workforce is facing a critical moment as thousands of part time employees push for higher pay ahead of resumed contract negotiations. One of the major outstanding issues in the negotiations is pay, specifically for part time UPS workers who constitute 60% of the company's workforce. While UPS claims that part timers make an average of $20 an hour after 30 days on the job, starting pay for part time employees is far below what full time workers earn for the same roles. Many part time workers are advocating for a starting pay of $25 an hour, which accounts for inflation since 1983 when the wages were last adjusted. Now, UPS is known for offering competitive benefits to part time workers, including healthcare and pension benefits, on par with those enjoyed by full time employees. However, the disparity in wages remains a significant concern for many part time workers. In anticipation of a possible strike, the Teamsters have been holding practice pickets for months and advising members to save money to create a financial cushion during a walkout. In the event of a strike, workers would receive, excuse me, In the event of a strike, workers would receive strike, strike pay equal to 5 times their union membership dues. This financial support would help them sustain their livelihoods during the periods of the work stoppage. Now, to prepare for a potential strike, UPS is training non union employees to work in warehouses despite the looming possibility of a strike. Most businesses relying on UPS service still expect a resolution to be reached in the negotiations. Companies have not switched to other carriers, which indicates a belief that a work stoppage may be averted. Now, should a strike occur, it could have significant ramifications for businesses, consumers, and the broader US economy. UPS handles approximately about 28% of Americans' shipping, and the strike would lead to a significant disruption in supply chains and delivery services. The company's role in delivering high value items, such as during the COVID 19 vaccine distribution, adds to the potential challenge of a work stoppage. A recent estimate from the Anderson Economic Group projected a 10-day UPS strike could cost the US economy over $5 billion. Workers would lose around 1.1 billion in wages, and customers would face losses of approximately $4 billion. Now, this would have cascading effects on small businesses and the overall economic landscape. While Teamsters President Sean O'Brien has requested the White House to stay out of the negotiations, some industry experts speculate that President Biden might intervene to prevent an economy disrupting strike. Past actions by the administration in resolving labor disputes point to the potential for active involvement in negotiations to reach an impasse. If negotiations reach an impasse. In closing on this particular story, as UPS workers and the Teamsters Union navigate contract negotiations, the push for their fair pay remains a central concern. With the strike deadline approaching, the implications of a work stoppage on UPS operations and the broader US economy are significant. The outcome of the negotiations will be closely watched by workers, businesses, and policymakers alike. Now, this particular story was written in the Neoliberal Journals by Johan Bionik, staff writer and reporter at the Neoliberal Journals and the Neoliberal Corporation's Moral Magazine. You can go to the story entitled UPS Strike Looms as Workers Advocate for Fair Pay in Upcoming Contract Negotiations. And that was a recent article, and I believe that there has been an update on that. I saw that recently there was an update on that particular story. If I could find that update for you and give it to you real quickly, there is an update on that story because I understand that there is no longer a possibility of a strike. There is no longer a possibility of a strike, and I'm trying to find the story. But I was reading earlier an article where they were saying that they have averted the possibility of a strike, and I was trying to find that story for you guys. But as soon as we get the update, we will share that with you. And I will. But there are other stories that made the headlines last weekend that we want to bring to you. Some very powerful stories that we have to continue with. And that the second story that made the neoliberal journals headlines was the news concerning, if I could find that news for you guys, it's the DOJ threatens Texas over border actions. The Department of Justice threatened. Again, the Department of Justice threatened Texas over its border actions this weekend. And though that's last weekend, of course, that just passed. Now, a fiery clash has ignited between the Department of Justice, DOJ, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott over the construction of a floating buoy border barrier to halt illegal immigration into the state, with the DOJ expressing its intention to sue the state over what it deems a violation of federal law, humanitarian concerns, and public safety risks. The dispute highlights the ongoing tension surrounding the border crisis. Now, here's what you need to know about the legal battle and the implications of the proposed barrier. And this is the story. This is the story that is also available in the neoliberal journals, which made headlines. Now, in June, yes, in June, Governor Abbott announced the construction of a floating barrier made of orange buoys in the Rio Grande to discourage migrants from crossing into Texas. The initiative is part of Operation Lone Star, an effort by Texas to address the border crisis amid concerns over the federal government's response to the issue. However, the move drew immediate criticism from Mexico, the US federal government, and immigration activists who argue that it is both illegal and inhumane. In a letter sent to Governor Abbott, the DOJ accused Texas of violating federal law and raising concerns about humanitarian and public safety risks. The floating barrier is seen as potentially obstructing navigation in the Rio Grande River, and the DOJ is demanding the removal of any obstructions or structures that could hinder waterway usage. Governor Abbott took to Twitter to defend Texas' actions, asserting that the state's sovereign authority to protect its borders under the U.S. Constitution and the Texas Constitution. Abbott argued that his administration has repeatedly communicated its authority to Biden's administration, including in a letter hand delivered to President Biden earlier. Now, Governor Abbott's ongoing feud with the Biden administration over border policies has contributed to the mounting tensions. The administration accused Abbott of undertaking actions that endanger migrants and border agents, undermine Biden's border plan, and obstruct the administration's effective border enforcement strategies, with the DOJ setting a July 24 deadline for a response from Abbott. The potential legal dispute raises significant implications for both Texas and the broader US economy. A strike could disrupt shipping and supply chains, impacting businesses and consumers. Additionally, Governor Abbott's actions have drawn criticism from Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, further complicating the situation. Now, as the DOJ threatens legal action against Governor Abbott and Texas over the floating border barrier, the clash underscores the ongoing challenges surrounding the border crisis. With humanitarian concerns and public safety at stake, the standoff carries significant consequences for Texas, the US government, and those seeking resolutions to the complex issue of illegal immigration. The situation remains fluid, and the outcome will be closely watched as legal proceedings unfold. This particular story is available in the Neoliberal Journals, written by Dante T. Nelson, staff writer at the Neoliberal Journals, and co-producer and manager here at the Neoliberal Round podcast. The Neoliberal Journal is a publication of the Neoliberal Corporation by Ronaldo Mackenzie's Moral Magazine. And of course, there was another story that made top story in the Neoliberal that headlined over last weekend, and that also made headlines on the Neoliberal Journals and the Neoliberal Corporation Moral Magazine. It has to do with Donald Trump. The story entitled "Federal Judge Orders May 2024 Trial for Trump on Military Secrets Charges." Here is the story. Former President Donald Trump is set to stand trial on May 2024 for hoarding military secrets at his Mar-a-Lago estate as ordered by U.S. District Court Judge Eileen Cannon on Friday. That's last Friday. The trial date comes after most presidential primaries have passed and appears to strike a middle ground between the prosecution's request for a December 2023 trial and Trump's plea to postpone until after the November 2024 election. As Trump seeks to return to the White House, he faces a series of criminal trials, including one set for March in New York for unrelated state charges and the possibility of additional charges in connection with the 2020 presidential election interference and alleged vote tampering in Georgia. Now, there is also another story. There's another case involving John Anthony Castro, where Mr. Castro has filed an appeal at the 11th Circuit Court, overturning Judge Eileen Cannon ruling on the matter of him not having standing to pursue any case against Mr. Trump. Now we are waiting for the outcome of that case, which is set for sometime in September. But here is the full story concerning the federal judge ordering a May 2024 trial for Trump on military secret charges. Let me read the story. Now, former President Donald Trump is set to stand trial on May 2024 for holding military secrets at his Mar-a-Lago estate, as ordered by U.S. District Court Judge Eileen Cannon on Friday. The trial comes after most presidential primaries have passed and appears to strike a middle ground between the prosecution's request for a deadline for a December 23 or December 2023 trial and Trump's plea to postpone until after the November 2024 election. As Trump seeks to return to the White House, he faces a series of criminal trials, including one set for March in New York for unrelated state charges and the possibility of additional charges in connection with the 2024 presidential election interference and alleged vote tampering in Georgia. Judge Cannon's ruling designates Fort Pierce, Florida, as the trial location, drawing jurors primarily from 5 counties along the state's Treasure Coast, which generally lean pro Trump. The criminal charges filed against Trump include storing highly classified documents and obstructing government efforts to recover them, all allegedly committed in Palm Beach County, where Mar-a-Lago is situated. Judge Cannon was appointed by Trump and has been perceived as deferential to him, and the recent ruling in the Castro v. Trump case to dismiss Mr. John Castro's case against Mr. Trump is being appealed by Castro's lawyers, who has also requested that Judge Cannon be removed from all cases involving Donald Trump. You may access the latest news on the Castro v. Trump lawsuit in the neoliberal journals and the neoliberal round, Castro v. Trump Part 4. However, her early rulings in this case may seem to balance both sides' argument or to dismiss any appearance of bias towards Mr. Trump, since her recent rulings involving Mr. Trump is under review. Judge Cannon has yet to address potential challenges with jury selection and other explosive legal issues that may arise during pretrial proceedings. Now, the judge rejected prosecutors' argument that the case should not be considered complex and set a detailed pretrial schedule with numerous interim dates for filings and other procedures. Now, due to the volume of classified information involved, a special procedure for handling such materials will be established. Trump's attorneys had urged the judge not to set a trial date at this point, especially during the election season, considering it impractical and unwise. However, Judge Cannon anticipates further arguments and briefings on jury selection procedures. In closing on this particular issue, as the May 2024 trial date approaches, Donald Trump faces multiple legal challenges from various jurisdictions. The trial on military secret charges marks a pivotal moment for the former president as he seeks to re-enter the political arena and navigate legal proceedings amid the backdrop of the 2024 presidential election. The case's outcome will undoubtedly draw significant attention and could have far-reaching implications for both Trump's political future and the broader legal landscape. Now, this particular article is available in the Neoliberal Journal. It's written by yours truly, Ronaldo McKenzie, Senior Editor and Editor-in-Chief here at the Neoliberal Journals and the Neoliberal Corporation Mobile Magazines. And there is more. There is more. We have lots in store for you. And there is more. The fourth story that made the headline, which is actually an ecological or environmental or climate issue, which is a quite powerful story. It's entitled "Greenland's Recent Melting Reveals High Risk of Sea Level Rise." Again, Greenland's recent melting reveals high risk of sea level rise. Here is the story. A recent study published in the journal Science, reveals about 416,000 years ago, a significant portion of Greenland was an ice free tundra landscape, potentially covered by trees and inhabited by woolly mammoths. The story in the neoliberal commentary by Johan Björnik and Ronaldo Mackenzie is available in the neoliberal in the neoliberal in the neoliberal in the neoliberal newsletter feed entitled the neoliberal commentary, and it's entitled Greenland's recent melting reveals high risk of sea level rise. Let's go to the story. Actually, let's go to that story and see, and let's share that, because that's a powerful story that we can't miss. Now, according to the story, Greenland's recent melting reveals high risk of sea level rise. A recent study published in the journal Science reveals that about 416 years ago, a significant portion of Greenland was an ice free tundra landscape, potentially covered by trees and inhabited by woolly mammoths. This finding overturns the previous belief that the Greenland ice sheet had persisted for millions of years. Moderate warming from 424,000 to 374,000 years ago triggered dramatic melting, resulting in at least 5 feet of sea level rise, despite lower levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide, 280 ppm, compared to the current level is 420 ppm. The research suggests that Greenland may be more vulnerable to human-caused climate change than previously thought, making it susceptible to rapid and irreversible melting in the coming centuries. Now, here are the key points in the study. 1. A new study shows a substantial portion of Greenland was ice-free approximately 416 years ago during a warming period known as marine isotope stage 11. 2. The melting during this period led to at least 5 feet of sea level rise globally. 3. The research indicates that Greenland's ice sheet may be more sensitive to human-caused climate change than previously understood, posing a grave risk of irreversible melting in the future. And 4. The study used a long-lost ice core from a secret US Army base in northwestern Greenland, providing direct evidence of the ice-free period. Now, what is significant about the research? What is significant about the research? Now, understanding Greenland's past melting is crucial for predicting its response to current ultimate warming and the potential sea level rise. With approximately 23 feet of sea level rise locked in Greenland's ice, the findings raise concerns about the vulnerability of coastal regions worldwide. The study highlights the urgent need to address and reduce atmospheric carbon dioxide levels to prevent further melting and sea level rise. Now, you can find this particular the entire, this is just a summarized version of the particular research, which is available at the University of Vermont. Greenland melted recently, high risk of sea level rise today, long lost ice core levels that most of Greenland was green. And that's available in Science Daily, July 21, 2023. You can go to the neoliberal commentary in our LinkedIn page, and you'll find that. Just type in the neoliberal commentary. Go to LinkedIn, you could type it on your search engine, the neoliberal commentary, and it will take you straight to the neoliberal commentary in LinkedIn, and you will find the latest article. It's this particular article, which is a summary of a complete and fuller journal talking about the studies, and it's kind of voluminous. There's also a YouTube video material that is embedded inside of the article in the neoliberal commentary that I'm reading from, which gives you a picturesque view and detailed view in video of the particular study, courtesy of the University of Vermont, in YouTube, entitled Greenland melted recently shows higher risk of sea level rise. But this particular story was submitted by Ronaldo Mackenzie, yours truly, but it was also assisted in the writing of this particular story was Johan Björnik. Another story that made headlines in the neoliberal corporations, news feeds, news journals, and so on was exploring changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs in Jamaica, a study of socio-political, religious, and cultural influences. Here is the story. In Jamaica, there has historically been a negative perception towards African and indigenous spiritual practices, religious beliefs, customs, and faiths that draw influences from urban Indian heritage or African traditions. Rastafarianism, Obia, Voodoo, Pocomania, or Poco culture, revivalists, and Muslim beliefs have often been marginalized, deemed as fringe, demonic, and unpopular, juxtaposed against the inherited traditions from European colonialism. Now, you can read about this study by Ronaldo McKenzie, adjunct professor at Jamaica Theological Seminary and doctoral student at Georgetown University. And you can also learn how to participate. You can participate by going to the neoliberal journals, explore at theneoliberal.com, and the study is Exploring Changing Attitudes Towards Afro-Caribbean Beliefs in Jamaica, a study of socio-political, religious, and cultural influences. I won't read the particular story for you because that is going to be that this particular study is available in audio podcast later on in a final episode series on Caribbean theology, and it's also a part of it was read in the final and climactic last lecture in Caribbean thought, the last podcast episode that we did. Part of the lecture, the second part of the lecture, which is available on the podcast, it was about this particular study, exploring changing attitudes, and so we don't have to share that particular study. And finally, the final story that made top headlines, which is available in yesterday's News Today issue number 1, is this. Caribbean Thought Lecture on Walter Rodney and Afro-Caribbean Beliefs. Ronaldo McKenzie delivered a powerful final lecture in Caribbean thought that was climactic at Jamaica Theological Seminary, exploring Walter Rodney's struggle for democracy in Guyana, exploring how this struggle for democracy and independence continues even today throughout post-colonial countries of the global South. Reverend McKenzie explained that Walter Rodney, a renowned historian and socialist from Guyana, was not only known for his academic work, but also as a political leader. He was an active member of the Working People's Alliance, WPA, and a critic of the authoritarian Forbes Burham dictatorship. Now, you can read about the lecture written by staff writer Johan Donnick for the Neoliberal Post, reporting on the lecture available in audio and video on the Neoliberal Round and all major platforms. Of course, if you go to the Neoliberal Round podcast by the Neoliberal Round by Ronaldo McKenzie YouTube channel, you will see a presentation on this particular lecture. But this is the story. This is the story in the lecture, and I'll read a bit of it for you, because it's available as in the Neoliberal Post. But I have it? Yes, here we go. Professor McKenzie delivered a powerful final lecture. This is the story written by Johan Donnick, reporting on the lecture, and it's available in the Neoliberal Post at ronaldocmckenzie.com, entitled Caribbean Thought Lecture on Walter Rodney and Afro-Caribbean Beliefs. Professor McKenzie delivered a powerful lecture, final lecture in Caribbean thought that was climactic and at Jamaica Theological Seminary, exploring Walter Rodney's struggle for democracy in Guyana, and how this struggle for democracy and independence continues even today throughout post-colonial countries of the global South. Reverend McKenzie, or Professor McKenzie, explained that Walter Rodney, a renowned historian and socialist from Guyana, was not only known for his academic work, but also as a political leader. He was an active member of the Working People's Alliance and a critic of the authoritarian Forbes Burham dictatorship. Burham, though claiming to be socialist, maintained a repressive regime in Guyana and had friendly ties with the United States. He held power through rigged elections and suppression of opposition parties and trade unions. Rodney, aware of the risks, chose to work within Guyana to bring about change. He was assassinated in 1980, drawing international condemnation from figures like Michael Manley, Maurice Bishop, and Fidel Castro. In his essay, written before his death, Rodney analyzed the nature of the Burham dictatorship, exposing its corruption, incompetence, and tactics for consolidating power. He criticized the regime's personality cult and its attempts to appear as a democracy while suppressing fundamental rights. Ronaldo raised and expounded on questions that Mr. Rodney seemed to be answering in his essay via Jacobin magazine. 1. How can the working class challenge the Burham dictatorship and assert its power? Again, how can the working class challenge the Burham dictatorship and assert its power? 2. What is the significance of civil disobedience and non-cooperation in the struggle for liberation? 3. How can national unity be achieved in Guyana given its diverse racial and class divisions? 4. What is the alternative to the Burham dictatorship and how can the people reclaim their rights and restore democracy? And 5. How can resistance be sustained against the violence and intimidation of the dictatorship? Professor Mackenzie concluded this section of the lecture with a summary that Rodney's essay explores essential questions related to working class power, national unity, and the path towards liberation in Guyana. His answers highlight the historical lessons of collective labor actions, civil disobedience, and the need for a government of national unity as a clear alternative to the oppressive dictatorship. He calls for a unified and determined effort to reclaim democracy and build a just and equitable society for all Guyanese. Of course, this particular lecture was the lecture and the essay from which Mr. Mackenzie had shared, or I had shared, was taken from the Jacobin magazine, dated 6/13/2020, which I sorry, as you can get the particular story that was part of the lecture. One of the source that provided the lecture came from a particular essay that was published in the Jacobin magazine on June 13th, 2020, entitled Walter Rodney and the Struggle for Democracy in Guyana. You can go to the Nilbor Post and you can see the links embedded inside of the story. Now, in part 2 of the lecture entitled Afro-Caribbean Beliefs, Professor Mackenzie then shifts gears to explore Afro-Caribbean beliefs in Jamaica and to discuss a study that the class will be embarking on to ascertain how Caribbean people's attitudes towards their Afro-Caribbean beliefs are changing. Professor Mackenzie highlighted the fact that many Caribbean peoples, including himself, had scorned certain aspects of their traditions emanating from Africa and less than those of Europe, such as Jamaicans scoff and laugh at Jamaican revivalists and Rastafarians, but are more readily accepting of Christianity and other traditions from Europe, as if nothing good can come from themselves and from their ancestors and heritage. Reverend Mackenzie discussed Afro-Caribbean beliefs, especially those in Jamaica. According to Reverend Mackenzie, in Jamaica, there has historically been a negative perception towards African and indigenous spiritual practices, religious beliefs, customs, and faiths that draw influences from urban Indian heritage or African traditions. Rastafarianism, from Rastafarianism to Obia, Voodoo, Pocomania, Poco Church, revivalist, and Muslim beliefs, have often been marginalized, deemed as fringe, demonic, and unpopular, juxtaposed against the inherited traditions from European colonialism. The Judeo-Christian faith, such as Roman Catholicism, Protestantism, and Evangelicalism, has been favored and considered closer to the truth and the ideal. However, in the 21st century, with increased exposure, awareness, critical thinking, and a more liberal lifestyle, particularly among the younger generation, it is crucial to investigate whether attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs are changing. So this study aims to explore the shifting attitudes of Jamaicans and the factors contributing to these changes, considering demographic variables such as location, age group, educational levels, income status, political affiliation, denominationality, and religious beliefs. Professor Mackenzie concluded with this: Jamaican religious traditions have a rich and diverse history, particularly within Afro-Caribbean communities. When over 750,000 African captives were brought to Jamaica from regions such as the Bight of Biafra, which is now present-day Ghana, and also West Central Africa during the late 18th century, a variety of African and African-influenced religious practices began to emerge. Now, we are conducting a study exploring the changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. If you're interested and would like to participate, please visit the link inside the post by going to renaldocmckenzie.com and going directly. You can actually go to renaldocmckenzie.com, or you can go to you can go to the Caribbean Thought lecture that I'm reading from. It's embedded, or you can go to the actual study entitled "Exploring Changing Attitudes Towards Afro-Caribbean Beliefs in Jamaica," a study of socio-political, religious, and cultural influences that's available in the Neoliberal Corporation at https://theneoliberal.com. Now, just so you know, the these are that concludes the top stories or the top studies or lectures that made the news in the Neoliberal journals, feeds at the Neoliberal Corporation. These are just some of the top stories that made the headlines this week, last weekend. You can subscribe to the Neoliberal journals at theneoliberal.com/the-neoliberal-journals, or you can subscribe to this podcast show by going to anchor.fm/theneoliberal for more updates on these and other important news and stories. We invite you to donate to the Neoliberal Realm podcast by going to anchor.fm/theneoliberal/support. We do need your support, and we just want to give a shout out to Winston McKenzie and Kenneth O'Connor, who are our monthly donors who provide a small donation towards this particular podcast show. But we invite others of you to share with us. Donate to the show, subscribe to the show, share us with your friends, and let us know how we can make it even better. And we are getting better in our news and journals and feed. In fact, visit us 10 years ago and look at some of the articles that we saw. Visit us about a year ago or 5 months ago. But we are always improving in terms of the show, the programming, the content. Our skill set have improved significantly, and we have other persons who are now involved in the Neoliberal Corporation, and we are working to get better. We have a book that's coming out, Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered: Neo-Capitalism and the Death of Nations, that will be available soon in August, and that's co-authored by Professor Emeritus Dr. Martin Oppenheimer. And of course, we have the already published book, which was published in 2021, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance. So, please get a copy from Ennis Bookstore. If you are in Philadelphia, it's available at Uncle Bob's Bookstore. You can purchase it online at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, so on and so forth. It's available in ebook, paperback, hardcover. And or you can also reach out to us here at the Neoliberal, to me. And if you would like to get copies signed by yours truly, I could do that. We can get the range. We have a bookstore here at the Neoliberal at renaldocmckenzie.com/the Neoliberal bookstore and the neoliberal.com/shop. We have them. You can also order through us, and we'll be able to autograph that for you and send it to you. So please continue to visit us, support us. Visit the website, peruse the programming. We offer quite a few, lots of materials and resources and services, web services, IT services, academic writing and editing, podcast content development, mentoring resources, leadership resources, development resources, and we provide speaking services and ad services if you would like us to showcase We provide advertorial opportunities and so on if you'd like to showcase your stuff here at the Nail Ball. Thank you for listening to the show. We are all about serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges by making popular what was the monopoly. All good.